restaurant was softly lit with golden chandeliers hanging low over neatly set tables, each one carrying a faint scent of roses and fresh bread. At a corner table by the window sat Ethan, a 34-year-old architect with short dark hair, wearing a navy blue blazer over a white shirt. His polished watch caught the light every time he tapped the table impatiently. He glanced at his phone again, scrolling through old messages and wondering if this blind date was just another waste of time. He wasn't new to disappointment. His last few relationships had ended with polite excuses and cold goodbyes. Tonight felt no different. The waiter passed by, offering a reassuring smile, but Ethan could only return a sigh and mutter that he would wait a little longer. Around him, couples laughed quietly, glasses clinking, soft piano music filling the air. Still, the empty chair across from him seemed to mock his hope. An hour passed and the waiter returned, asking gently if he wanted to order. Ethan hesitated but decided to stay. Something inside him whispered that he should give it a little more time. Outside, rain had started to drizzle, making the streets shimmer under the restaurant's amber glow. As he stirred his untouched glass of water, the door suddenly opened and a small voice broke through the calm. "Are you Mr. Ethan?" He looked up to see a little girl, about 6 years old, with curly brown hair tied in 2 pigtails and big hazel eyes filled with curiosity. She wore a pink raincoat slightly too big for her and held a small teddy bear close to her chest. The entire restaurant turned to look, surprised by her sudden appearance. Ethan blinked, unsure what to say. Yes, that's me," he replied softly, leaning forward as the girl smiled shyly. "My mommy's sorry she's late," the little girl said, her voice trembling slightly as she handed him a folded napkin. Ethan took it gently, noticing the neat handwriting inside. "Running late due to traffic. Please wait, Emma." A small smile tugged at his lips. The child climbed into the empty chair, swinging her legs back and forth, clearly nervous but trying to act grown up. Ethan couldn't help but chuckle at her innocence. "So you're Emma's daughter?" he asked. She nodded proudly. "Yes, my name's Lily. Mommy said you might like stories, so I brought my favorite book." She pulled out a worn copy of Charlotte's Web from her tiny backpack and placed it on the table like a treasure. Ethan's heart softened. The girl's presence changed everything. What was once an awkward, lonely evening now felt strangely warm and alive. They began talking while waiting for Emma to arrive. Lily asked endless questions about his job, his favorite color, whether he liked animals, and if he could whistle. Ethan found himself laughing more than he had in months. The waiter, amused, brought her a cup of hot chocolate topped with cream, and she thanked him politely, making the entire staff smile. As she spoke, Ethan noticed little details. The way she tilted her head when thinking, how her laughter was identical to someone he couldn't quite remember. Time passed quickly, and before he realized it, the restaurant was quieter, the rain outside heavier. Still, no sign of Emma. Ethan began to worry a little, but Lily, unfazed, opened her book and started reading aloud in her soft, careful voice. He listened, mesmerized by the comfort her words brought. Just as Lily finished a chapter, the restaurant door opened again. A woman rushed in, slightly out of breath, her hair damp from the rain. She looked to be in her early 30s, with shoulder-length auburn hair and kind green eyes. Her cream-colored blouse was tucked neatly into jeans, and she carried a sense of quiet grace even in her haste. "Lily," she gasped, smiling in relief. The girl jumped up, running to her mother's arms. Emma hugged her tightly, whispering an apology before turning to Ethan. "I'm so sorry," she said, cheeks flushed. "Traffic was terrible, and my babysitter canceled last minute. I didn't want to stand you up, so..." Ethan smiled, finishing her sentence softly. "So you sent your little ambassador?" They both laughed, the tension melting away instantly. They sat together, the air now lighter, the mood effortlessly warm. Lily nestled in a corner seat, sipping the last of her hot chocolate, while her mother and Ethan began to talk. Emma's voice was calm yet full of quiet confidence. She spoke about her work as a teacher, her love for literature, and how being a single mother had taught her patience and strength. Ethan listened intently, finding himself drawn not only to her words, but to the way her eyes softened when she looked at Lily. There was something magnetic about her simplicity. No pretense, no performance, just honesty, The restaurant's lights shimmered against the rain-specked window, creating a soft glow that framed their small table in golden warmth. For the first time that night, Ethan felt like he was exactly where he was meant to be. Dinner stretched on as laughter filled their corner. Ethan told stories from his travels, and Emma shared funny tales from her classroom. Even Lily chimed in, correcting her mom's details with adorable precision. The waiter occasionally stopped by, clearly enjoying their dynamic, whispering to another staff member, "That's the happiest table tonight." As dessert arrived, Emma tried to apologize again for the chaos of the evening, but Ethan stopped her gently. "If you'd been on time, I'd have missed meeting the best storyteller here," he said, nodding toward Lily. The little girl giggled, covering her mouth shyly. It was a small, tender moment, one that stitched their hearts closer without any effort. Outside, the rain finally began to fade, replaced by the faint glow of city lights. When the check arrived, Ethan insisted on paying, but Emma hesitated. "You don't have to," she began, but he smiled. "Let's call it a fair trade." "You brought the company," Lily yawned, resting her head on her mom's arm, eyelids heavy with sleep. The sight made Ethan's chest tighten in a way he couldn't explain. He wasn't just looking at a woman he admired. He was looking at a family he hadn't known he needed. As they stood to leave, Emma looked embarrassed about the rain-soaked stroller and messy hair. But Ethan only said, "You look perfect." She blushed, a faint pink rising to her cheeks, and for a moment neither of them spoke. There was something profound in the silence, unspoken but deeply felt. Outside, the rain had stopped completely, and the air smelled of fresh earth and hope. Ethan walked them to their car, holding an umbrella, though it was no longer needed. Lily sleepily clutched her teddy bear while Emma buckled her in. Before getting into the driver's seat, Emma turned to him. "Thank you for waiting tonight," she said softly. "Most people wouldn't have." Ethan shrugged lightly, but his voice carried meaning. "Some things are worth waiting for." She smiled, closing the door gently. As the car drove off, Ethan stood there for a while, watching the taillights fade. Something had changed in him. A quiet certainty that the emptiness he'd felt wasn't permanent. That maybe, just maybe, this strange blind date wasn't an accident at all. The next morning, Ethan woke to sunlight streaming through his window and a notification on his phone. It was a message from Emma. "Lily says you owe her a rematch at storytelling night. Dinner soon?" He laughed softly, typing back, "Tell her I'm ready for chapter 2. The memory of the little girl walking into that restaurant, confident, curious, full of warmth, replayed in his mind. What began as a lonely evening had turned into something extraordinary. Life, he realized, has a way of sending the right people at the wrong time, only to show that timing doesn't matter when hearts recognize each other. Somewhere in the city, Emma and Lily were starting their day too, and for the first time in a long while, Ethan felt that his story, once so empty, was finally beginning to fill with meaning. Over the next few weeks, Ethan and Emma began to see each other more often. It started with casual coffee meetups and quick lunches, then turned into long evening walks where they talked about everything from their childhood dreams to their fears of the future. Lily was always part of those moments, holding Ethan's hand, skipping ahead on the sidewalk, or showing him the latest drawing she had made in school. Her innocent laughter bridged the gap between them, turning what could have been awkward silence into effortless warmth. Emma admired how patient Ethan was, how he never rushed, how he remembered every little detail about both her and her daughter. There was something steady and safe about him, something that made her believe she could finally let her guard down. One evening, as the sunset painted the sky in soft orange and violet hues, Lily suddenly looked up at Ethan and asked, "Are you going to marry my mommy someday?" Emma froze, her cheeks turning crimson, while Ethan simply smiled, replying gently, "We'll see what she says." It was a moment filled with laughter, blushes, and unspoken understanding, the kind that lingers quietly in the heart long after the day ends. A month later, Ethan invited Emma and Lily to a quiet dinner at a charming restaurant by the riverside. The place was softly lit with golden lamps, and gentle piano music filled the air, creating a calm and intimate atmosphere. Emma wore a simple navy blue dress, her hair slightly curled, while Lily looked adorable in a white frock with a pink ribbon in her hair. Ethan greeted them with a bouquet of daisies, Emma's favorite, which he had remembered from a small comment weeks ago. As they sat together, laughter flowed easily, stories were shared, and even Lily joined in, trying to sip her juice like a grown-up. But as the meal came to an end, Ethan's tone softened. He looked at Emma and said, "You know, that day at the cafe, I wasn't sure why I waited. But now I know." His eyes were sincere, almost vulnerable. Emma looked down, her fingers gently tracing the edge of her plate, her heart pounding as she realized the truth in his words. Lily, sensing the moment, smiled brightly and said, "I told you he likes you. Mommy." The table erupted in laughter, but beneath that joy, a deep connection took root, something neither of them had expected but both quietly longed for. Weeks turned into months, and what began as coincidence slowly blossomed into something profound. Ethan would often visit Emma and Lily at the small park near their apartment, bringing coffee for Emma and a balloon or a coloring book for Lily. He didn't try to impress. He simply showed up, quietly fitting into their world as though he had always been part of it. Emma, though cautious at first, began to notice the way Ethan listened when she spoke, how he treated Lily with kindness and patience, and how he respected her boundaries. It was a kind of care she hadn't known in years. One chilly afternoon, as autumn leaves drifted across the park, Lily ran ahead, chasing after a squirrel, and Ethan instinctively reached out to steady Emma's arm when she stumbled. Their eyes met, and for a moment time seemed to slow. The noise of the world faded, and only their unspoken emotions filled the space. Gratitude, tenderness, and a quiet fear of losing something that had just begun. Ethan exhaled softly and said, "You don't have to face life alone anymore." Emma didn't reply with words. Her eyes glistened, her lips trembled slightly, but the silent smile she gave him said everything.